The Bible teaches us what love is, and it says plainly, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Hi, my name is Gabrielle Henley, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. I fell in love and married my very first boyfriend. We grew up together in the neighborhood. We've known each other since we were about 11 or 12 years old. We grew up doing what kids do. We went skating together. Our families knew each other. Back in the day when we had neighborhood, everybody knew everybody. That meant that your neighbor could whoop you. Your neighbor could tell your parents what you did. That's the kind of neighborhood we grew up in. So I would say we knew each other fairly well. He came from a house of trauma, right? Those are the things that you need to take in context when you are in a relationship. But when you're a kid, you don't think about that kind of stuff, right? You just know that, he came from a big family. I came from a small family, and we liked each other. And so we dated, and it was good. He was what I considered the cutest boy in the neighborhood. He was sweet. He had the spirit to love his neighbors. He was the kind of kid that would be mischief as a young boy, but he was not far from being corrected because, again, we lived in neighborhood and that's what people did. As we grew to be teenagers, we grew apart. He stayed in the neighborhood, and eventually I went away to college, and coming home on a break, we connected again and life was good. So I thought it seemed good. We dated, we had fun. He was the life of the party. We always had a great time. My mother liked him, right? I knew his mom and dad. He came from a 2-parent household. And so he had 5 brothers and sisters. We knew them. He knew my brothers and my sister, my family. And so it seemed like everything was wonderful. The first thing that I did not pay attention to was the fact that he was very jealous. As a young woman, I thought that jealousy was cute. That meant you liked me, right? You was jealous if somebody looked at me. Somebody tried to come and get my phone number, or the guy in the party across the room was looking at me. And I did not know at that time that that is a form of abuse, because then it becomes control. Who is that? Why is he looking at you? Where you know him from? And it is distrustful. I just read 1 Corinthians, and it says, love is trust, right? It does not control. So when we think about domestic violence, oftentimes we think of pushing, fighting, kicking, slapping somebody to the point of death. It starts off a lot of times in small increments that we never pay attention to, like somebody trying to control you. That's what abuse is about. Intimate partner violence is about control. It's not always about the physical part, but mainly about the control. And it starts small, and it usually doesn't get better, it gets worse, right? So we started off, and then we lived together, and the control got worse. So it wasn't just who you're talking to and the jealous acts, because that continued forever. It was also the isolation, because then he began to not like my friends, right? But again, we grew up together, so you know my friends, most of them. But because we also grew apart and I went to college, I also had a life that he was not a part of. So he didn't know my college friends. He didn't know the people who I met away in college, because I went to an HBCU. So I had friends from all over the country. And then that began to be a problem, because he didn't want me to socialize with my friends, right? He was taking those things away from me. So as I talked to young adults, right, high schoolers, both male and female, I always say, if somebody does not like what you do, and the things that you love and try to take it away, that also is a form of control. So be mindful, right? If you are somebody who is a cheerleader and you always at the games and you always going, well, that's what I do. Don't let someone take you away from the things that you love, because that is a form of abuse, right? From the control issues, it eventually came into an open slap, which I excused because I was being mouthy, right? I'm that kid. You always talk too much. You always talk back, because I know how to speak up for myself, right? And so speaking back for him cost me to be smacked in my mouth. We separated for a little while, and then the honeymoon part came. Baby, love you. I'm sorry. That wasn't me. I was angry. I don't know what came over me. And that is a part of the cycle of abuse, is that once the action that is offensive comes, then comes the honeymoon, where they love you and then they're sorry. But oftentimes we hear that with our heart, and so we give back in. And in doing so, it opens us up to further physical abuse, because again, it doesn't get better. It builds and gets worse. What I would say to survivors is, it's not always easy to pull out. Get you a support system so that you know you want to get out of this relationship. Build on that I am going to one day get out of this, and I am not going to be able to do it alone. Start building on your support system so that when the day comes when I can take no more, I have some support that will help me to get out of this. So from the open slap, the verbal abuse was always there. So little things, name calling, belittling. When I would do great things at work, he would never acknowledge that. Like, you think you're better than me, right? It's not that I think that I'm better than you. I'm doing great things. Why can't you acknowledge that I'm doing great things? That was also a part of the jealousy, because he was jealous of my lifestyle, right? And the things that I have accomplished. And so from the open slap, I was punched. And then for me, it was time for me to work towards separation. And I did separate. I did an order of protection. But at that time, we had kids. So we've been together for forever. When I had kids, my children were small. I separated. I felt free, because then I could move around a little bit. I could go to the store without being asked where I was going. I could move around through church. Just being here in church, he would have his arm around me so tight, like I couldn't go to the bathroom. Pay attention when you see couples like in an open space and one partner is always holding on to the other one, right? That is about control. Controlling even your small movements at times. Then he used the children to get closer to me, or use it to try to form a relationship, because he said that I haven't seen the kids because you separated and you have them all the time. And so Labor Day of 2012, he said, I want the kids to come out with the family for Labor Day barbecue. Okay. I sent the kids out, and I went to a friend's barbecue, and I had a great time. He called my daughter was very leery of her dad because she was the oldest. So she had seen his actions. She knew that he was abusive. Unbeknownst to me, he was abusive to her. He used to pinch her, she told me. Like, Mommy, when you weren't looking, like if I didn't do what he wanted me to do or say what he wanted me to say, he pinched me really, really hard. So she didn't like to spend time with him. So that day she was like, well, he's going to be with the family. I want to spend time with my family, so I'll go. Code word. We had a code word. This is what you say when something is not right, right? Our code word was broccoli. Something as simple as broccoli, right? Make it fit, make it make sense. But it lets me know, Mommy, come get me. So I called him early on. How's it going? Everything is going fine. Everything is peaceful. Okay. Around 10 o'clock that night, screaming, I don't want to eat broccoli. I am on my way. So I get there to pick up the kids, and he made me a plate of food. And he says, babe, can I talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, cool. I tell the kids to get in the back seat, and he gets in the front seat, and he's talking very softly. I miss you. I made you a plate of food. Thank you. And just like that, things just snapped. I'm sitting in the car, strapped in my seatbelt, because I'm just coming to pick the kids up, right? Come get in the car. It's time to go. He says, Ryan is manipulating us. I said, why? He was like, I don't like the way that she talks to us. And so she's, Mommy, be quiet. And I said, well, she's a child. That was it. As soon as I defended our daughter and did not take his side, he started punching me, right? Mind you, I'm strapped into my seatbelt. I can't get no leverage. We're in an Audi A4. And so he's punching me. It's Labor Day. Thank God I had the sunroof open. But he a big guy. He 240, 6'1", 6'2". He couldn't get the leverage in for these punches, but mind you, he's slamming them. The kids in the back seat screaming. So then he starts to bite me. So he pulls me and he just starts biting me on my face, biting me on my arms. I'm trying to get out. The kids I'm telling them, get out the car, get out the car. His niece is down the street. She sees the car rocking. And so she comes running. Remind you, doors are locked. I'm strapped in. She's screaming, Auntie, get out the car. I can't get out the car. She climbs in through the sunroof to release my seatbelt. And I get out and I run down the street. He runs behind me, grabs me by my hair and drags me down the street and starts slamming me like a rag doll. His family, remember we at the family barbecue. They hear all of this commotion. They come out. And once he releases me, my children and I run. I'm gathering them, run, come on. We run behind somebody's house, a neighbor's house. So it's an adult woman, myself, and 2 children sitting in the backyard of somebody's house. I'm banging on the door. Nobody's answering. I'm screaming, help me. Nobody's answering. I'm sitting in their backyard. They got the lights on. Nobody is saying anything. My daughter, amazing. She like, Mommy, you're beautiful. Don't let anything take this from you. You are a wonderful mom. She is 11. We stayed in the backyard until I heard one of his nieces holler, Auntie, the coast is clear. We come from out. Mind you, I can see police like 2 blocks away. They got the lights going. She says, you need to call an ambulance or call the police. I was like, I'm fine. I'm in shock. I'm fine. Mind you, I had on all white because I had been to a barbecue. It was Labor Day, last day to wear white. She was like, you're not fine. She's like, look at your clothes. All of this was red. She was like, you want to go in the house and wipe up? I was like, yes, my daughter is trying to call the police. She's dialing 911 at the time. I go in the house. They wiping me off. She was like, you're going to need an ambulance. I was like, no, if I need to go to the hospital, I'll drive myself. She's like, Mommy, no, you can't drive yourself. And his niece says, Auntie, your nose is falling off your face. I'm like, my nose is falling off my face. She was like, he bit your nose off. Your nose is falling off your face. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, my nose is falling off my face. The police get there. And this is why advocacy is so important and why I say you need people in your corner, right? The police get there and they say, somebody called the police. Mind you, I'm in the bathroom. His nieces are still trying to clean me up. And his cousin comes out, his male cousin comes out and said, oh, that was an accident. Nobody called you for the police over here. And they're like, somebody did call for the police. And my daughter is like, I called the police. My mother's in the bathroom, right? They bring me out. The police are like, oh, you need an ambulance. I was like, okay. Call me an ambulance. They called the ambulance. And then the police are like, so what you gonna do? Excuse me? You gonna press charges and give his name? Because if you're not, you wasting our time. And we could be gone by now. I'm standing there, bleeding, nose hanging off my face. And this is the police. This is how they talk to me. I said, well, I had an order of protection. Well, where is it? I said, it's in my other car. Well, why you don't have it on you right now? What we supposed to do with that? I'm telling you that my husband just fought me, and I already have an order of protection in place for him. They're like, you're going to need that paperwork. I don't have it right now. Well, they told you when you pulled it out that you should have it on you at all times. So you should have had one in this car. You had one in the other car. Lady, I don't have the order of protection right now. But when you get through with the hospital, you're going to have to come down to the police station and show us the order of protection. They called an ambulance. I get to the hospital. I had to stay in the hospital. I had to have reconstructive surgery on my face. The police were no help 2 days later when I got to the police station with the other order of protection, and he was on the run. So we were in danger for 30 days because we didn't know where he was. We couldn't move around. I'm calling the police like, this is where he works. This is his shift. You can go to Ford Motor Company and get him if you wanted to, because he's at work every day. And they're like, okay, we will. Just relax. We're doing the best we can. I'm calling them like, somebody just saw him here. They're like, ma'am, just relax. We're going to get him. I'm like, do you understand that my children and I are fearful for our lives right now? We can't really move around like we should. And they were like, we'll let you know. So until they called him, there was nothing I could do, right? I tried to do another order of protection, but the order of protection is not good unless he can be served. So we were in limbo for a while. I prayed Psalm 91 every night over me and my children. And on about the 30th day, I got a call from CPD that said that he was in custody. And so then for me, the process could begin. But again, I needed advocates. I needed people to support me while my children and I were trying to figure out our lives. I was trying to provide them as much normalcy as possible, right? They could not be in school for 30 days. They still needed to go to school. So in this process, I had to come out of my shame about being a battered woman. I had to find the hope in this and find me a little bit of dignity to keep going for my kids, if nothing else. I knew immediately, this is traumatic. We're going to need some counseling. So even in that process, I started seeking out counseling for my children and myself. I had to tell the school what was going on in case he came to pick up his children, because he was so charismatic. He was so loving. Everybody loved him. Like, why wouldn't he come up to the school and be like, I'm here to get my babies? No. So I had to tell the school what was going on. I had to let my circle of friends know what was going on, as well as my family, because domestic violence will have you live in shame so much, you won't tell anybody. And so they needed to know what was going on. And they thought we were the perfect couple. Everybody was like, no, he loves you so much. Every time I see you guys together, he's kissing you and loving on you all the time. Well, that was his plan. That's the person that he is, right? And so you also have to look at that. What are you trying to cover up by being overly loving, right? All the time in front of people. And so We eventually went to court. The court system isn't always for victims, so you need an advocate. Now there are domestic violence advocates at court for you, which is a great, great thing. I try to pride myself in, if I know that a woman is going through, I'm going to go to court with her, because the court system can send you through some loopholes and you just be like, it's not worth it. Never mind. It is always worth it. Go through the process, because it is a process. You can sit in court so many times and watch women just change their minds, and they just throw out cases of domestic violence because it's like, never mind. They just throw them out. Case thrown out. I went through the process. He was prosecuted, but not like I wanted to, because I felt like he tried to kill me. To me, that was attempt murder. To the court system, it's a misdemeanor. So he got short of a year in jail. And then once he was released, they would not let me do another order of protection. They were like, you already had an order of protection. I'm like, but I don't feel safe. They was like, but he hasn't posed a threat. What he did was, he did all the things the court asked him to do, right? So he would seem like an upstanding citizen. But while he was in jail, before he got released, I divorced him. That made him mad. So then he started to try to reach out to me. No, and I'm telling the court he's starting to try to reach out. Well, has he tried to do anything harmful? Has he been violent towards you? No. So I just separated myself from him completely. The children, he tried to maneuver his way in. He tried to use the kids again through the court system and tell him, his family and everybody, that I was keeping the kids from him. But you traumatized these children. They don't want to see you because of what they've experienced with you already, right? And so that was a whole process. But the red flags were always there. I didn't pay attention to the red flags because as a woman growing into my womanhood, a lot of that I excused. A lot of it, not knowing, I thought was love, was not love. And so I would tell anybody that is in an abusive relationship, watch the red flags, because they come in early and they build as time progresses. And as time progresses, you are also building a love bond. And so as your bond grows deeper, it's harder to see the red flags for what they really are. And then we begin to excuse them. Know the cycle of abuse and get a support system. Have at least 2 good people in your life that you can let know what's going on at all times. And if you are experiencing abuse, you can always call Trinity United Church of Christ and get in touch with our domestic violence ministry, or you can call the hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. And be safe out there.